Ever since the dawn of paleoanthropology, Louis Leakey's straight-line model, Australopithecus habilis to erectus, has been anything but straight. In truth, it's been littered with the bones of contention. Even his daughter-in-law, Meave Leakey, has spent decades challenging the linear model, uncovering fossils that point to a far more tangled origin for early Homo. On January 13, 2026, a new paper dropped, a partial Homo habilis skeleton from the Upper Burgi member of Koobi Fora. And this wasn't just any study. It came from a powerhouse team: Meave and Louis Leakey, Ashley Hammond, William Jungers, Frederick Grind, a who's who of early Homo anatomy. The paper unveils K&M ER 64061, a newly discovered partial skeleton they describe as the most complete Homo habilis ever found. A rare kind of discovery, the very thing Louis Leakey spent his entire life searching for. Ashley Hammond, Yahoo News, quote, "Our team's analysis suggests the individual stood about 160 centimeters tall, weighed 32.7 kilograms, relatively short and very light compared with later members of the genus Homo," end quote. The fossil evidence suggests that this individual carried long, powerful forearms with thick Australopith-like bone walls, the kind of anatomy you'd expect in a climber, not in the ancestor of Homo erectus. Even the pelvis hints at only the bare minimum of Homo-like walking mechanics. In every measurable way, the skeleton shows that Homo habilis retained deeply primitive proportions, far more so than anyone expected. From the paper, K&M ER 64061 is of significance because it very likely represents not only the most complete, but also the oldest postcranial skeleton of early Homo. For decades, paleoanthropologists have wrestled with the timeline. Homo erectus emerges by 1.9 million years ago, yet Homo habilis lingers until 1.4 million years ago. The pieces never fit. And this new skeleton makes the mismatch impossible to ignore. Anatomically, habilis is simply too primitive. The evidence is beginning to point towards a separate origin for Homo erectus. Humeral femoral proportions. The surprise. MSN, January 2026. What's clear, though, is that at 160 centimeters tall and weighing just over 30 kilograms, Homo habilis lacked the large, lanky body plan that has been noted in Homo erectus and all subsequent members of our lineage. Continuing, this in turn suggests that Homo habilis may not have been the direct ancestor of Homo erectus, as has been previously theorized. Yahoo News, January 2016. The strong, relatively long arms hint at a way of life that may not match later Homo erectus. As Spanish paleoanthropologist Dr. Roberto Saez recently wrote on his Nutcracker blog, the new paper plantea serias dudas sobre la consideración de Homo habilis como predecessora directa de Homo erectus. It raises serious doubts about considering Homo habilis the direct ancestor of Homo erectus. Dr. Saez also points to the Lady Guerrero mandible, discovered by William Kimball's team at Hadar and dated to about 2.8 million years ago, as a far better candidate for an ancestor closer to Homo erectus. Re-examining Dan5, a Eurasian signal in early Homo. Dan5 represents one of the most informative early Homo fossils from the region, offering new anatomical details that help clarify the diversity of hominids living in East Africa around 2 million years ago. The Dan5 partial cranium was discovered in 2018 by a team led by Seleshi Simal of the Leakey Foundation, working in the Afar region of Ethiopia. The first paper on Dan5 was published in February 2023 and included Simal, as well as brain anatomist Emilio Brunner, Ralph Holloway, and Professor Karen Baab of Midwestern University. The authors concluded, based on our set of measures, the general endocranial proportions are within the range of fossils included in the species Homo habilis or in the genus Australopithecus. Continuing, this new specimen extends the known brain size variability of Homo ergaster erectus, while suggesting that differences in gross brain proportions among early human species or even between early humans and Australopiths were absent or subtle. Note the author's use of the term Homo ergaster, which some paleoanthropologists treat as distinct from Homo erectus, a smaller-brained, African exclusive hominid. Dan5, what the second analysis reveals. A new analysis of Dan5 was published in Nature in December 2025. New reconstruction of Dan5 cranium, led by Karen Baab and featuring superstar anatomist Yosuke Kefu. The team's findings were based on an intensive 3D morphometric study of the cranium. The authors note that Dan5 was smaller than well-known contemporaries from Kenya, such as K&M ER3733, and more similar in size to adults from Dmanisi. Quick note, you'll often see K&M in paleoanthropology. That simply means Kenya National Museum. In the conclusion, the Dan5 fossil confirms that the emergence of Homo erectus was not a simple story. The authors then make a key observation. The current study also adds to data to the ongoing debate about the birthplace of Homo erectus. Eurasian Origins? Live Science, December 2025. Scientists have reconstructed the head of an ancient human relative from 1.5 million years ago, fossilized bones and teeth. But the face staring back is complicating scientists' understanding of early human evolution. Continuing, the mix of old and new traits was previously observed in 1.8 million year old Homo erectus fossils from Dmanisi in the Republic of Georgia, which led some scientists to believe that the species evolved in Eurasia from an earlier hominid population. As Live Science notes, this could include several pre-Eurasian erectus candidates, Greco-Pithecus, Antediluvius, and even a ghost proto-erectus lineage proposed by some Chinese anthropologists. One of the authors of the new Dan 5 study recently appeared on an episode of Evolution Soup right here at YouTube. Dr. Karen Baab holds a PhD in anthropology and is a leading expert in cranial morphology and early Homo anatomy. Dr. Baab, from the transcript, there are researchers who argue that the most parsimonious interpretation is that Homo erectus evolved in Africa because we have the earliest bits belonging to that species from there. Continuing, quote, but probably the most primitive anatomy for Homo erectus that's been recorded is from Dmanisi from Georgia, end quote. Continuing, quote, and so there are some workers that say really Eurasian origin is more consistent with the evidence we have, end quote. Dmanisi. Since the early 1990s, 5 skulls, other bone fragments, and stone tools have been discovered at Dmanisi in the Republic of Georgia. The site is located 100 miles south of the Georgian capital of Tbilisi. The Dmanisi fossils were uncovered beneath the ruins of a medieval fortress, a place already steeped in legends. Over a decade of excavation, 5 remarkable skulls emerged from the earth, as well as other bone fragments and stone tools. But the dig was shadowed by unsettling events. Abrupt departures, bitter disputes, interference from outside groups, and tragedies that some whispered meant that the site was cursed. Homo Caucasi. In December 2025, a team of anthropologists published a new analysis of the Dmanisi teeth. Their results supported earlier suspicions. The 5 skulls do not represent a single species, but 2 distinct hominid lineages. The authors even went so far as to boldly suggest a brand new term in the taxonomic lexicon, Homo caucasi, to capture just how distinct the Dmanisi lineage may be. The paper published at PLOS, titled Testing the Taxonomy of Dmanisi Hominid Fossils Through Dental Crown Area. From the abstract, differences in crown dimensions support the hypothesis of 2 distinct taxa coexistent at the Dmanisi site, previously proposed to be Homo georgicus and Homo caucasi. From the paper, if the Dmanisi specimens cannot be taxonomically grouped with Homo erectus, it raises the possibility that early Homo evolution had multiple episodes of cladogenesis, where some of them may have started in Africa and others outside of Africa. The authors give a nod to recent work by Chinese anthropologists suggesting alternative scenarios are worth exploring and considering as new early Homo fossils are discovered in Asia. Chris Stringer is quoted at Live Science, quote, I agree with the authors that Dmanisi probably has more than one lineage represented, end quote. Also at Live Science, if one accepts the new study's conclusions that there were two species present at Dmanisi at the same time, then the biggest implication is that, quote, there was an earlier and more primitive species that migrated out of Africa than generally thought, which is quite interesting, end quote. Karen Baab, Midwestern University. Deep ancient Homo radiation. The evidence from Dan 5 and Dmanisi points to a simple truth. The first dispersal wasn't a single species, but a radiation of several. The new evidence strongly suggests that early Homo is a bush, not a ladder, a tangle of overlapping lineages, and many of them would eventually shape the story far beyond Africa, leading to the first archaic modern Homo sapiens in Europe or Asia.